lights on. Yeah,
it's recording mine.
Dan, thank you. This is a treat. This is a pleasure. I don't get to talk to you very often, and face to face is even fewer. So thanks, man. What's happening at the moment? What are you up to?
Thanks, mate. Just trying to be a teacher to the children at home, and just in lockdown like everyone else. So it's just like being on tour, really, just in your hotel room for extended periods of time.
So is that sort of hot Liberian look sort of starting to work for you now as a teacher?
I have no respect for my children, so they have no interest in listening to me. Not working.
Right. So all good up there. Lots of kids and lots of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously interesting for everyone and a lot more challenging situations than what we're going through, but it is nice to have the family so close.
You've been. This would be one of your longest stints at home, though, wouldn't it, for a wee while? Or I know you've been away a little bit.
Yeah, I've certainly reduced the amount of time away. Was with Bangladesh in February, late February, early March. So sort of just the start of all this. So I came home March the 2nd, I think. Yeah. So in between that, they had a whole first summer in, what was it? We've got over 20 years at home. So it was very enjoyable.
What was that like? What was it? How did you cope?
Way too social. Fun, enjoyed it. So I never want to give up my summer again.
So genuinely enjoyed it. Genuinely just got stuck in and you wanted to work. Sorry, I see what you're saying now.
No, I don't want to work. No, I want to. I want to stay at home. I think mainly for our kids, giving them a Kiwi summer, because all they'd experienced is hotel life, whether working with Brisbane Heat or still playing. They just traipsed around the country in hotels, so they never really knew it. But now having them at home and being close to the beach, they got to experience it. So I think they'd much prefer that, and I know my wife and I would much prefer it too.
So is the workload starting to slow down now? Are you starting to slow it down as well?
I'd like to think so. I mean, put in pretty full on 5 years with coaching with three teams, Middleton and RCB, and so that was a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot goes on in between those tournaments, and particularly as head coach, there's the expectation that you're available for all decisions throughout the year. So that adds up a lot, and I really enjoyed it. But I'm enjoying being assistant and helping out with spin bowling with Bangladesh as well. So that actually means that I get a chance to I suppose coach as well. You get two or three people, you get a captive audience, and off you go.
Okay, so IPL season's 7-8 weeks long in terms of tournament duration. Maybe not necessarily that long for RCB. Sorry, Dan.
We made the playoffs a few times.
I know.
We got to the final. Should have won it.
Should have. Yeah. How long is the season when you're coach? I mean, what is that commitment? You're over there 2-3 weeks before the tournament, and then another week at the end of it, maybe. And how much else?
No. I think. I mean, teams differ greatly. I think it's the availability of your players. I think that's the starting point for it all. So, where someone like RCB, we had a lot of top-level international guys who would be turning up 1 or 2 days before a game, and then they get going from there. And then you'd have a lot of domestic players who inevitably were involved in cricketing tournaments throughout India. So you didn't really have them available either. So if you turned up early, a couple of weeks, you'd have 2 or 3 players to work with. So we worked out over a period of time that putting an extra 2 weeks on our schedule wasn't going to help us at the back end. So we tried to as light and as easy as possible. And throughout that 5 years, we did change the preparation a lot of the time to see what would work and what wouldn't. And it was varying. It was down to the player coming into the tournament in form rather than a lot of what we'd done in that build-up. So I suppose if you can have your systems in place and organised, then you can get a team come in and they can roll together and know what to expect. But it was always on the back of what players are available, what form are they in, what's the injury status, and how are they feeling from a fatigue perspective as well.
there was an element that you were called the bus driver when when towards the end of 2009 and through 2010. I guess that kind of helped you into that transition? You did have a lot to do with the team when I was towards the end of my career. You were doing a lot. Did that prepare you, or is it just one of those things you've always been good at?
It did and it didn't. I think when I first started coaching, I was trying to captain a team instead of actually coaching the team. And I think talking to a lot of other players who have transitioned quickly into coaching after playing, particularly if they've been leaders or captains, which a lot of the time tends to happen. It's those guys who get those opportunities first. I tried to control the team's not the right word, but I was still captaining, where you've got to empower people to take responsibility, and you've got to work a lot off the field to allow that to happen, rather than trying to make quick changes all the time. And I think that's where a good captain is a good captain, is they can be intuitive and they allow themselves to understand when the right time to make that changes. And a coach can't do that. A coach has to step back and allow that to happen. So that took me a little while. I had some experienced assistant coaches with me, Trent Woodhull, who you know. He helped me a lot with that transition, that it's not, you can't do everything as a coach. You can add a little bit to the team, but you can also detract a lot from the team. So I was trying to get that little bit right rather than messing with too much and making a lot wrong.
Did you get a lot wrong?
I don't know if a lot wrong, but I think I was trying to do it in a wrong way, and it would always be exhausting. If you try to continue on that at the start of it, and then when you get it, I think a lot of the time the team and the players allow you to become a coach because they're so good. And I think we had a good year with RCB, Stark, Coley, De Villiers. That all allows that to naturally happen, and players do their jobs. And then you can sit back and actually coach rather than try to micromanage at times. And I think that's where when a captain has to micromanage, I think a captain has to be on top of all his players. He has to understand everyone, what they're doing. He has to allow them has to get the best out of them. Whereas I think a coach can take a broader perspective, because you can't have two guys doing it at the same time. Because if two guys are micromanaging, then it's going to get in the way of each other. Yeah,
okay. You touched something there that perfectly, something I wanted to talk about. And while you were captain, you made me a better cricketer, and I'm sure you've heard me say that before, whether to you or in articles or other. That you got a lot of the words right when you were talking to players. I think you managed to work out how to get, and we've talked about this before a little bit. How was that luck, or have you just always had a bit of a perception for picking the right words to get people to do what you wanted them to do?
I think what I've learned over time is that you resonate with 30% of your team, and straight away you'll build up a natural rapport, and you'll be on the same wavelength, and you'll be really able to delve into that person's psyche, and you'll be able to understand what makes them work. And then 30 to 40% you'll have a relationship with, and you'll get on well, but it's just not quite on the level where you're talking the same wavelength, and then the rest you just come from a different perspective of things. And that's where you hope your captain or your coach picks up the rest of it, or your assistant coach picks up a little bit. So I think that's what I've learned more than anything, is that you develop a rapport with a certain amount of individuals. And I think when you maybe back to that first year, I was trying to stretch myself to develop that rapport with 25 guys, and that's incredibly difficult to do. So I think for you and I, it's probably a natural affinity and an easy conversation, easy language, both bowlers, that sort of thing. I think that all just grows, and I think it takes a while to understand that, because captain or coach, you're expected to be everything to everyone, and you do try to live to that at times. And once again, having a good assistant around, like Trent or Andrew McDonald, who I've learned a lot from. Same sort of thing. You can you choose your guys that you can get the best out of, and you don't leave the rest to the side, but you understand that they're going to have a different rapport or affinity with someone else, and also not to be jealous of that as well, just because I think, all head coaches in the past probably that we've had is that you try to be everything to everyone, and from a really good place. You're not doing it for any other reason than trying to make people better. But just sometimes it just doesn't work, and it's hard to build up that conversation or that rapport with someone. So you don't have to work. You shouldn't work at it too hard. You should let someone else do it.
Yeah. And can you remember what you said as we were walking out to field on that last day against Pakistan? So my last day of that test match. Can you remember what you said in that little huddle?
Bowl fast.
You said, "Come on, let's go and get Obi a stress fracture." and
okay. The same thing.
Exactly the same thing. And it was and for some reason you just had this way of damn, I'm going to go out and get a stress fracture for this team. I'm going to go and do everything I can because it's my last day of cricket, and I'm going to go and you had that exactly. You had that ability, and then we had this again, bowler to bowler, and we had this Bangladesh match in Chittagong. I think I bowled 8 overs on the trot, and I probably shouldn't have. And I was bowling anyway, I was bowling all right. It was going okay. You were bowling from the other end, so I was getting no rest. And after about 4 overs, you said, "Do you want another one?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll do." Got to after 6, and I was like, "I'm not sure." And I think I turned you down for the 8th. And you said, "I'm never going to ask you to bowl again." And again, it was just that perfect, the perfect. I knew you didn't mean it, but it was like, I've done all right here because that's as good a compliment as I could have got out of you. Did you just had that? You just knew some people how to work.
I was probably just trying to be funny.
Yeah, but it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I think once again, it's just that rapport that sometimes happens between players that you really know. Because I knew if I said that to someone else, they might have taken offence to it, or it may not have worked. So hopefully, I was reading the situation right and realised that you're never going to have a better time to bowl in Chittagong than the 16th over. So you might as well take it.
Can you remember anything else in that test match that was it was a long way to the change room, wasn't it, Dan? In case you wanted to nip off. Can you remember? No? All right, I'll leave that one, eh? Okay. I've lost you on the connection too. But those days, you didn't mind the heat? You enjoyed bowling in those conditions, those long days out in the field in Chittagong and Dhaka, etc. Do you enjoy those games?
I did really. I really enjoyed long days. For 80 or something like that, I took a real pleasure in that sort of performance because I knew it was hard, and I enjoyed walking off the field and being satisfied with own personal performance. It always contributes to the team, but there was something about those days that really was special. It was probably those days that a good day for the team. So the team was in it, and there was a real vibe around the next day. The days where the games are real gone in a lot of ways, and so there's no real feel from the team that the next day could be a great day. But the 3 for 80 is always there's a chance tomorrow's going to be a great day. And I think that's where it's like being 46 not out or something like that. You know, tomorrow could bring something great, and you could sense it. And as the team walked off the field, you could sense it in the dressing room afterwards, and the conversation. People go off to their room just tired, and the next day's going to be a battle. So that I think that sort of summed up what I liked about Test cricket is that next day. If there's still a chance of that next day being good, then I loved the way it made the team feel.
What were you said 3 for 80, that's a pretty good day for anybody walking off, but what were the bits that got you through those longer days when you weren't 3 for 80, when you were none for 70? What was your, like, I always wanted to walk off with the lowest RPO. That was always my goal. Didn't happen a lot at test level. At first class level, it happened a bit. I always wanted to walk off with the lowest RPO. I couldn't because you were playing. Never mind. What was your bit? Was that similar?
I think what drove me to become a better batsman was that I wanted to contribute, and I found that that gave me the most satisfaction. That I knew if it wasn't bowling, if it wasn't batting, if it wasn't fielding, then I just it would always be around how can I contribute to the team, and so that gave me a few more options. So if I had a bad day with the ball, then there still was that opportunity with the bat or helping down the field, things like that. So I think in my mind, I never had specific goals. It was just about contribution, because that contribution made you a valuable part of the team. It made you, first on the selection sheet or somewhere around there. And that's what I always thought. And that's what I always talk about to the batsmen who I sort of see in the same predicament as myself, is that it is about contribution. And I think a lot of guys get wrapped up in that one discipline that they can contribute to, and then the rest of the game just disappears, and it becomes a real emotional and tough test match if that's what you're going to live by. And I think it's just really hard to do. So it's that contribution, and personal success is obviously high on that agenda as well. And if you can contribute in all three facets, then it's a great test match.
Do you know we still own a batting record, you and me?
Thank you.
We do. We own a batting record. Come on.
Sri Lanka? Was it Sri Lanka?
Yeah, highest eight-wicket partnership against Sri Lanka. It wasn't much, but it should be beaten.
Murali had a bad groin.
Murali had no deucer, and lefty. Oh, why is his name just disappeared? Harath had a carom ball that you didn't believe. You didn't believe me when I told you, and then you come down 2 overs later and said he does. You don't remember that. Geez, you don't remember. I remember everything about interactions with you. Nothing else.
He had his finger came off the ball, so he was all his left arm spin was good enough to do the job anyway.
Yeah,
he didn't need to worry about carom.
You used to carry around a mattress everywhere you went, a topper sort of thing with that. When we were on tour, you used to carry around like a topper mattress around. We're going over old territory, but you've always had a back issue, back problem. Did that help, and then you just got bored of it, just got sick of it, carrying that stupid thing around?
I think I didn't think it didn't take around too long. I think I got conned into thinking around this stuff on tour. So,
hey Dan, your connection's terrible.
Is it mine or yours?
No, it says on my screen.
Probably because we've got 40 devices at our home. Is that better?
Still, yes, much better.
There you go.
All right,
tech wizard.
Genius. You have to be when you travel the world, and you got to somehow Skype home, don't you?
No, I still haven't got that. I haven't mastered that. I'm learning off my children about technology.
You must have done lots of coaching stuff like this for especially pre-tournament. Brisbane, Bangalore, etc. Middlesex.
But a lot of stuff that I looked into was with analysis, so that he could be the person or the conduit to using that information as well. So I like using them, but I always found that there wasn't as much data as you thought there would be to help players. It's still growing.
Has that changed? Has that changed a lot?
Well, I think it wants to be. I think there's a natural reticence to it all. I think of baseball, and some of the stuff I've read is that you need 500 interactions to build a sample size, and so that's one pitcher thrown to one batsman 500 times, and then you can start building a realistic model. And thinking of IPL, Chahal to Warner, this happened 43 times. It might be more now, something like that. 43 starts to be not really enough to say, okay, here's a game plan. So therefore you tend to back the bowler and his situation. Whereas I think the more and more you can build that sample size, the more and more you can actually have an opportunity to build something better than just here's clump some leg spinners together and this looks good and see what happens.
I kind of got the feeling when we were playing, when I was playing, that we were one of the better scouting teams. We had some pretty good stats. We had pretty good analysis on other teams' batsmen. Is that something you still were we, given your now moving off and seeing plenty of other teams, were we well prepared as a bowling group, as a batting group, the New Zealand team back then?
Yeah, I think we tried to be for what we had. I think batting's always escaped me, and how you prepare for that, because it is you reacting to something, and it is quite difficult to say. I mean, most batsmen have a real appreciation of what a bowler's doing and what he's trying to do, but then there's so many variables that come into play as well, the situation, etc., etc. I think we were. I think the best I've seen do it is probably Shane Bond and Andrew McDonald. Those guys, since I've seen them in action and how they prepare and the amount of background work that they do to present a pretty simple document with some key points is really impressive. And so I think where you get to with that, and I think when a player embraces it, that's when it's at its most useful, and combining that analysis, the data, video, putting that all together as a package, and having a player interact with you and say, I think I can do this, I think I can do this, will it work? That's where you get to. And then also the acceptance of it might not work, and not to throw it all away just because of that one game, which is, for me, has just been T20. And so many things can happen within that T20 game to allow you to either deviate from that plan, or for that plan to not work, but to still have the ability to come back the next day and say, what worked, what didn't. You're still happy to go along this path, and then keeping it going, really.
How hard is it staying on that plan? Go back to your playing days. Given you're playing, you're bowling to Adam Gilchrist, and he's just letting his hands go because he's missing the flight. How easy is it for you to just go, I just have to stay and hang and wait for him to make a mistake, even though he's pumping me over long off for six?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think you I suppose you sort of go back to form in terms of in that situation. For me, I'd probably just throw bowl Yorkers to him to stop the bleeding, and so therefore you allow a bowler or a batsman to actually have that ability to change the plan and see what he thinks best in the situation, and that's where I think the data helps in terms of it provides experience to someone who's probably inexperienced, and so that they can have that information given to them, and so you can expedite that learning process. And I think that's really all it's about. And so if you can't live bowling sort of 100 balls to Gilchrist and 40 of them go for six, then you can see it happen in front of you, or you can see it written down. So look, it is incredibly difficult. I think that, and you think of the IPL with the pressure, the crowds, the what's going on, the quality of players. It is incredibly tough for guys in T20 to A, stick to a plan, and B, know when the plan's not working, and C, devising the one on the fly to be effective. So there's a lot going on, and that's all, as you know, all in the space of less than 60 seconds. Yeah. So it's there's a lot going on.
Who gave you the bowling scares? Like you know, Sehwag and Dilshan just ruined me. I just could not bowl to those two guys. I did not have a clue how to keep them quiet, let alone get them out, let alone stop them from scoring off me. Who gave you the scares, man? Did anyone stop you from being able to bowl?
You did the Sehwag flu, like a few others. Mainly left-handers. Obviously, left-handers were tough. Yeah. Gilchrist was destructive. Found it really hard to. I could bowl a good ball to him, and then I could. It didn't feel like pressure meant anything to him in terms of. Yeah. He bowled 3 great balls, he'd still run down, hit the next one for 6. So that was always intimidating. Hayden was the same, whereas I thought I got on top of Hayden a bit more near the back end of his career. From a skill perspective and from a person, I thought I was never going to get him out. It was futile bowling to him. I might as well just call the over and ask him how many runs he wanted. Was Dravid. So Dravid was I mean, he was his ability to read length was impeccable, and I couldn't believe the balls he went back to. I couldn't believe the balls he went forward to. He never made a mistake. He never got it wrong. He could hit both sides of the wicket, and he was always in control. Yeah. And so it just built. I just felt futile bowling to him. Did you ever doing this? Give the ball to someone else?
Yeah. Did you ever get you're letting it go, and all of a sudden you'd lock up? I'm not talking yips. I'm not talking anything like that. But I'm just talking that
Yep, it's still to come.
Pardon?
You have to get it at some stage. Yes,
It's still
at some stage.
But every now and again, there's a snap hook that comes out, and I remember just some guys, and I just couldn't let go of the ball. It just would not come out of my hand. There was just the fright through my body was too much to try and muscle through. Did you ever have that kind of where you just couldn't bowl it? You'd either fluff it up or you'd just dump it?
Not so much. It was more a case of if my technique was off, I felt like I was ineffective. That there was nothing on the ball, and so there was basically just bowling a slow medium pace down the other end, and that was always technique driven for me. And sometimes it was easy to get back, and sometimes it was hard to get back. I always found that after a lot of one-day cricket and T20 cricket, I had to make a conscious adjustment to how I was bowling to then try to be effective in Test matches. So. In terms of that, I think back to early on in the career, there was probably a few weak thigh moments bowling in certain situations. But for me, mainly it was about worrying about technique, to get my technique right to allow me to bowl, rather than.
When you say weak thigh, you mean that right leg, that front leg, not sort of pushing you through?
No, I mean sort of like nervousness.
Okay,
nervousness.
Sorry,
nervousness early on.
Yeah.
But the more I got, my nerves were around, making sure my technique was good, rather than anything else.
I've just forgotten the question that I was going on the back of that. Would you have? How do you see guys dealing with that stuff better now? That those big moments, and being able to get over it a bit better. So going into those big moments, the Saudi sort of super overs, those sort of scenarios where guys do tend to have shorter memories, or are guys just hiding it better?
Saudi's probably the best at it because he's prepared to do it time and time again. He doesn't shy away from it. I think the best example of that is the young domestic players in the IPL who have grown up in the last 10 to 11 years of just being put under pressure situations, big crowds, big players, and now how they're dealing with it, that it's just all in their stride. And that's why we've seen such a strong Indian team now who, whenever they debut a player, it looks like he belongs. And I think other countries, sometimes it takes a while for that debutant to get into it because he's never experienced that such high level situation, whereas all the Indian players now, all the players around the world who have experienced the IPL have dealt with that pressure and knows what it feels like. And I think that's on a number of levels as well. I think it's seen the professionalism, it's seen the likes of Kohli and what he's done to set a standard for Indian cricket across the board. And now it's a case of that's the standard, everyone has to meet it. If you don't, you're not going to get close to that team, and that's why they just head to 1 to 11. There's such an impressive group of players. I mean, and then you bring in probably another 11, and they're still there. Their fast bowlers are incredible now. Where that hasn't always been the case in the past.
I just remembered that question. I was going to go back to about your bowling. Did you, given the bowlers around you, you kind of changed a lot of your style that maybe wasn't picked up on by outside looking in. I remember us having a chat one day, and you were getting a bit of beef from the media about not taking wickets and not being able to take wickets in Test matches anymore. And I sort of sat back and did you have to change to become a lot more economical? As opposed to trying to take wickets because of the bowlers that you had around you weren't able to be as economical as we all hoped?
It wasn't always a conscious decision. I think it goes back to that thing I talked about before about trying to contribute no matter what. And if I wasn't taking wickets, which was incredibly frustrating, not being able to contribute in that part, but finding other ways to deal with it. I think the thing that I'd probably regret from that time is the amount of overs I bowled, and so that was probably what you're talking about there is okay, if I just bowl all these overs, then at least we'll tie up one end and we'll be economical and we can see what can happen, etc. And so that doesn't really grow grow a bowling group. It's just a holding pattern. And I think that's where I could have done it differently around that certain situation. And it's tough because you're in a test match, you want to win. You're in the moment. You just want to make sure you can cover this next over, and then the next over, and the next over. But it is a holding pattern. And I think that's what, look at the New Zealand team of the last sort of 6 or 7 years, is that they don't really have holding patterns anymore. It's just not necessarily pure attack, but it's just an understanding of what the right thing to do and the right situation is. And they have some great bowlers, but I think between Brendan and Kane, they've really managed that exceptionally well.
No, when I've spoken to a few friends who have sort of, they weren't anti Vettori, but they were, why is he's not taking enough wickets? And it's sort of, as soon as I explained to them that everyone else is going for 4s and you're the only one that's going sort of sub 3, they kind of understood it. But I don't think a lot of people outside looking in understood that. So that plays with, you read media, that must have played with your head a bit.
Look, I think how do I try to put it? I think the expectation of myself to take wickets was greater, and I think that's what a lot of people say, is that whilst the media can contribute or people's opinions can, I'm not sitting there taking 1 for 100 and being satisfied. I think that's where everyone gets it wrong in those situations. So there was a lot of pressure on myself to do better, being captain. I think the starting point. But like I said, if I could have managed it differently around the amount of overs, then you would have made a big difference. And also, I think we're going through a time where New Zealand wickets were tough going on bowlers, where they were pretty flat. I think of India coming out and batting a day and a half, et cetera. And I think we had probably I was scoring runs, so they must have been flat. So there's so many facets to it, aren't there? Unless you live it in the moment, and you almost need to step outside your bubble. And I think that's what's the hardest thing to deal with in those situations, is that you think you're right, and you get a siege mentality, and then you fight against everything, and then that doesn't help anyone. It's about having that broader perspective of how we can do this better. And I think that's what I've learned over the years, is how do we actually do this better.
Did you read a lot of media? You read most of it, didn't you?
Oh, well, I mean, I read the papers. I've never been on social media, so I've never seen that unless it's sort of been passed along to me. But the papers were the main thing back then. It seems such a long time ago. But whatever Bobby
Sudoku
we're writing, we're the important parts of the day, because they formed everyone's opinion.
And how did you deal with that?
I think good and bad. I think sometimes I'll start that again. I think I dealt with it badly when it was false, and I wanted to correct it, and I dealt with it well when it was true, even if it was critical. So, I mean, a lot of writing is an opinion, so sometimes that opinion is wrong because everyone has wrong opinions. So those are the things that probably frustrated me more than anything. Wrong opinions, trying to guess what was going on inside the dressing room without actually knowing. Those were the things that were hard to think.
Yeah, I remember reading some stuff, and a lot of it, you just disagree with, and then sometimes there might have been something in a piece that actually maybe they're right. Maybe that opinion from outside of our group is okay, and you can add that to making a change. So you didn't not read the media. You were consistent. You didn't sort of dip in and dip out. You were consistent. Yeah, I know. Sorry. You good?
Yeah, I got you now.
Oh man,
is that me or you?
I think that was me. I think Mum's downloading movies to watch this afternoon. So you were a consistent watcher, reader of media. It didn't, when you were going good or the team was going good or when it was bad, you just read it anyway. You wanted to know. You wanted to know what they were thinking.
I'm trying to recollect it. I think it was just there. It was like there was a paper in the dressing room always.
Yeah.
You never could escape it. So it was there. Even if you started the day saying I'm not going to read it, by the end of the day, trying to kill some time, and it was there. And so I don't think you, and because it was always a talking point as well, wasn't it? I mean, It wasn't like whatever article would just say, someone walk up to you, can't believe they wrote that about you, and so, oh god, now I've got to go and have a look. So
I did that.
You just couldn't avoid it.
Yeah, I did that one morning to Brendan. I think Milmo had a pop at Brendan, and I walked up to him at breakfast and said, "Have you seen what he's written?" And he's like, "Why did you tell me?" He actually got quite grumpy, and I was like, "Geez, sheesh, I'm just trying to like maybe early prepare you for if you have read it or if you haven't read it." I was, I got that one wrong, I think, in hindsight. But so you did bowl the overs. You batted a lot. You get back to the hotel, and you're done physically, mentally, straight to sleep, or you had because you had to run the show. I know we had a talk about this a couple of months ago on the phone, but you captain, bowling, batting. How did you recover? How did you rest up and go again for 5 days?
I think it was always that optimism, like we talked about before, around what the next day could do, and I always felt because I'd given myself a timeline on how long I wanted to captaincy, that I thought I had to do everything, not do everything. I had to give everything, and so therefore I don't think I switched off in those times after the game. I think it was always looking, either speaking to coaches or how we're preparing for tomorrow, talking to people and finding out that way. And so it was all encompassing. I think that's the thing whenever someone takes over the captaincy, because I think a lot of people do want to captain, and if you have that urge, then you need to find out about it. But it is, I mean, I look back on Flem and think of Flem doing 13 years and go, that's just incredible. I think that just doesn't seem feasible anymore in this day and age with how much work a captain actually has to do. But it is a huge amount of time, as well as worrying about your own game. I think that's you put those all together, and it is overwhelming at times. But there's the satisfaction of leading the team to a win, and there's probably nothing better than that as well.
How did that short transition between Flem being captain and still playing, and you becoming captain in South Africa? How did you feel in that around that time?